friends and lovers and all the others, thank you for joining us. I know that Kenny just raided in with his community, his family. So welcome in, Proggies. Thank you for being here today. We do this show every week live on Twitch on Mondays. The time really depends on what is good for the artist. So Kenny was streaming tonight and he thought he would raid in for his last hour. So I'm very grateful for that. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much. And thank you for the resub, Miss Kimmy. I do this show because I wanted to learn a little bit more about our streamers, a little deeper than what we can get into in chat, and just ask them where they came from and where they're going. And I'm also not very good at listening, so it's a good exercise for me to stop and listen to the person talk a little bit more. So if you're watching this on Twitch, we do put the VODs up on YouTube, and all of the audio actually goes to all the podcast platforms. So if you listen to podcasts and you want to listen to this at another time, audio-wise, it will be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and everything else you can get it on. So looking forward to doing this one. All of my socials are just popping up on screen, and all of Kenny's socials are in his new link tree, which he just made today for me, which I'm very grateful for. I can put Kenny Junkster into the description below for the YouTube video and the podcast, and he can change all the links for various things, and you will always get his most recent information. And I guess with that, we're just going to bring him in and we're going to do the chat, aren't we? Is that what we're supposed to do now? All right, here we go. Let's bring in Kenny. My friend, we are now both live in my OBS to Twitch.
All right. What's up?
What's up, my man? Thank you for doing this today.
I feel like I just saw all you guys.
You sure did. It was kind of you to say, hey, stick around. I'm still doing another hour, even though you came over to my stream, man. I'm very grateful for that. So thank you for cutting into some of your time. And welcome, everybody, from Kenny's chat. Thank you for being here. I do interviews with musicians, and we're going to try to ask Kenny some questions today that you may not have had a chance to ask him. I know that you know like things like his safety word and stuff, but is that true, Kenny?
Wait a minute. No, they don't know that one.
Oh, it was someone else's chat I was in. Right on, dude. So I was just wondering, when was the first time that you sat behind a piano?
As soon as I could get myself vertical onto 2 feet and walk, I walked over to the piano first. I was not interested in literally anything else. That's all I wanted to do. My mom played, she wasn't a concert pianist, but she used to play classical piano, and I guess I was listening to it when I was, when I was forming down there in the belly. Right. And I was always, it was always my thing. I never learned to play. Like there was never a first lesson where I started at zero. It was just like I just walked up and started playing. Right.
Do you think that womb vibration had anything to do with your knack for it? Like, you're a tremendous player, dude. Like,
oh, thank you. Absolutely, yeah. You're everything about you is affected by your environment before you're born.
Absolutely.
You're a mostly formed human being after 6 or 7 months. My Senorita Wendita can tell you.
Right.
So yeah, all of the noises and sounds. I had heard my parents' voice and my siblings' voice for months before I was born. So
of course,
it's absolutely the environment that happens before you're born. You don't just suddenly come online when your parents bring you home from the hospital, right?
Yeah. What do you think about the word talent, Kenny? Because a lot of people will say you're so talented, you're so this, you're so that. How does that resonate with you or not?
In terms of it being something that you're born with?
Yeah, or just you're inherently good at it or something. I have a hard time with the word because I work very hard to try to sing, play, or do anything. But some people who like yourself might feel like, yeah, I was kind of born with this.
I was definitely born with a lot of it.
Okay.
I definitely don't have to work as hard as some other people might have to.
Right.
I don't say that in any sort of braggadocious kind of way. It always came natural to me. That's one of the reasons that I don't teach. People ask me if I teach. I was like, I don't teach. I can't teach. I don't have the patience for people who can't pick things up as quickly as I can.
Right.
So it's I think that there's definitely something inherent that you're born with, and some of it can be learned, but you really have to be that. You have to be born with the, I don't know if it's the desire or I don't know. There's some sort of inherent, there's some sort of inherent thing. So whether it's called talent or not, I don't know what it's called.
Right. That's why I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that. I know that There was formative years where I was singing in the car with my parents' records on the radio or whatever. So I feel like that and I was always mimicking Ace Ventura movies with my voice, like trying to change the shape of my voice and stuff. So I thought that might have a reason, but I didn't know what your thoughts were on that. You play more than piano though. So what was sort of the succession of instruments for you as a multi-instrumentalist? And you play them all very well, by the way, everyone. If you haven't checked out Kenny, I've put his link into the chat, and it will be below in the YouTube video.
One thing I don't deal well with is praise. It was always piano first, and I guess when I don't know how old I was. I'm probably 9 or 10 years old. I'm not exactly sure how I ended up with somebody's drum set in my garage, and I liked to play the drums. I never had a lesson. I would play along. Hello, dog. I like to play along with it, and I had enough of the coordination. I still don't have all the coordination required to play the drums terribly well, but I can get by.
So you mean you can't play Rush songs, or like I've seen you play some pretty intricate stuff, my friend.
Sometimes your hands just end up in the right place by luck.
You're so humble, dude.
Which is how I met Senorita Juanita, by the way. Thank you. I can keep good time. I have the coordination, but when, and I'll expound more on this when we start talking about the guitar years. I'm around, being a professional musician, I'm around people who really can play. So I find myself comparing myself to the best of the people that I know and the people that I play with. So when, dropping the name Firestone Rocks Drums, Scott Firestone, whom I've known for many, many, many years, when I see a guy like that play, I feel like a hack.
You're right.
Where I might be better than some amateur Joe Schmo drummer.
Right.
But I don't see myself as a good drummer or anything like that, because I hold myself up to people who are at a higher level, I guess.
Of course. And there are and it's great to know where you stand. I mean, I think it's honest, and I think that's humble and honest, and you feel stronger on a piano than that's your instrument,
Well, piano, I've always maintained that piano and drums are very similar. Piano is not just a musical instrument, it's a percussive instrument. Mm-hmm. And if you're a piano player, and I don't know how many piano players are watching right now, but you're kind of mimicking the backbeat of a drum set when you're playing the piano by yourself.
Of course.
So, where you would be hearing with the drummer would playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I hope the sound comes through okay on the chat.
Yep, it's a little hot.
As a piano player, I'm doing kind of
the groove, the feel.
So it's almost you can hear the drums even though you don't actually hear the drums. You're still playing some rhythmic stuff and some percussion stuff, and there is, not in a digital piano obviously, but in a traditional piano there are hammers striking strings. Mm-hmm. So it's percussive
ultimately
in that way.
Yeah, it's almost like a marimba of sorts on strings.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, hammers on strings.
Right.
Oh, beautiful. And I would agree with that 100%, because I'm not really great at playing the drums either, but I have that foot drum kit that you might have seen before that I play with my feet. And so rhythmically, it's just like if I'm playing, again, Sweet Home Alabama, it's boom, boom, God, boom, boom. The guitar is doing that. My feet can kind of fall into that pretty easily. So it's just the isolation of the limbs that gets a little bit different. And I see you do that very well as well. But from drums, you kind of had someone leave a kit in your garage. And then how did you complete this ensemble? Well,
so I over the years, various people left their drum sets at my house. I never owned a drum set, but I was playing in a band with a drummer who left it at my house for a little while, and I would play Who songs and I would play Rush songs and as best as I could. It was never great, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing for sure. I went away to college. not really having played very much guitar. My dad was a folk guitar player, so there was a nylon string guitar in the house growing up, and I would try to play it, but guitar is just such a different animal because you have notes in both directions. With a piano, to me, it's simple because the low notes are down here and the high notes are up here, and there's one place to find each note. Even there's various C's,
linear.
But they're different octaves.
It's very linear.
So it's all you have to do is what is it? The y-axis or the x-axis? I don't know.
Right.
I'm not good at math. So with guitar, the challenge to me was the coordination between the two hands and then having the x-axis as well as the y-axis and having the same note in multiple places on the neck. And I still struggle with that to some degree. So I went to Berklee College of Music.
Okay, here we go. This is where, okay.
This is what you wanted to hear about?
Well, I just didn't know that, but I'm like, how is this? Okay, I'll stop you there. Berklee College of Music, but I've been into Kenny's chat, okay, and I hope I can talk him into doing this today. And people will literally be spitting songs into the chat in like second after second, and he will auto-modulate to every one of these songs and start playing them as it's going. It is one of the most phenomenal things ever. I don't mean to make you blush, but it is really cool that you can do that. So, okay, back to Berklee Music.
At Berklee, I forget exactly what the percentage of guitar players is in relation to all of the other instruments, but it's more than 50%. There's no shortage of guitar players at Berklee. So there were guitars that I could play that were around, but I didn't really need to or have to. It wasn't until after I graduated I came back home to my mom's house, and I wanted to be writing music, and I didn't have a guitar player at my disposal. I had like one guy who I knew who was never, wasn't reliable or available, and my brother had bought a guitar, and for whatever reason, it was this really, really crappy guitar. It had like a plastic fretboard and a mirror pickguard, and it weighed like 20 pounds. It was like the heaviest thing ever. But I started teaching myself to play a little bit. And that was where it started. That was where it started with guitar. A couple of years later, I ended up, I don't want to date myself too much, but I was in a band where this was a period of time where Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots and Hootie and the Blowfish and Alice in Chains, they were all the grunge-based guitar bands. And keyboards were not really a thing in that period of time. You didn't have a whole lot of piano parts and organ parts and synth parts the way you did in the 80s and playing in that kind of cover band. So there were mostly two guitar bands. So there was a guitar player in the band. I was the keyboard player, but there wasn't anything for me to do. So I bought a little guitar effects processor, and I started bringing that shitty guitar that my brother had onto these gigs. Eventually I got a better guitar, but it was kind of trial by fire. I ended up learning all these songs because I had to know them because I was on stage playing them.
Wow. So literally the fact that there was no keyboards in that era as much, like it forced you to, fill in with a guitar, and that's kind of the
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was how I ended up.
Well, dude, I wish I could play like you, and guitar is my number 2 instrument. My number 1 instrument is right here. It kind of came built in. But my number 2 instrument is guitar, and you can play far, far better than I, man. You're a really, really talented musician. So tell me a little bit about your years at Berklee, and how did that go for you? And was there auditions, applications? How did that go for you?
I'm not a very good spokesperson for Berklee College.
Well, you don't have to be. This is the thing. My podcast, you can rip them a new one if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Well,
they don't sponsor me. I don't care.
By the way, I appreciate the nice comments from you and in the chat about my guitar playing. I do not see myself as a good guitar player.
But that's what drives you, Kenny. That's what drives you in all of these things. I hate to interrupt you, but you honestly, like, the fact that you put yourself in a place where you I can go way higher on this ladder. Look where the ladder goes, and seeing people do it better. Yeah, so that you're well versed, but that's what keeps you driven, man, and that's why you'll play music forever, because there's no end to that ladder. It just keeps going, right?
Yeah. Well, the Berklee application process is the application more or less is send us your parents' tax returns, and based on that, we'll decide whether or not you're going to get in.
Boom
And-
goes the dynamite.
How's that? And I got way more from hanging out in the hallways of the Berkeley dorms after 10 p.m. at night than I did from any of the classes that I took there.
Wow.
It was really about the immersion and the people and finding myself around people who like the same music that I liked and doing the same things that it's just like I found my tribe of people there.
Yeah.
And we would just stay up late and we would snack and we would drink and we would eat pizza and we'd hang out. And we were just living, eating and breathing and sleeping music all the time.
Incredible.
And so that was really the Berkeley experience for me. I hate saying that in front of my mother who helped me pay for all this. But
That's okay, man.
I sometimes wonder if I had gotten an apartment on Mass Ave across the street from Berkeley, it would have cost a whole lot less money than actually going there, and I could have met the same
Oh, I
people.
see. Just go and mingle in the halls like, hey, what's up? Brought my piano over.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's a great way to explain to other people coming up to, like, this is, I hope people listen to this as a lesson too. And that's why I ask you these questions is like, if you're in that mind frame or you want to go there or do that, consider maybe a couple years of hanging out with some really great players and see where that takes you and see how you feel about it. I mean, I'm not here to give advice either, but it sounds like that's a great story, man. And I appreciate you letting us in on that, even though it felt a little odd.
Well, I definitely met some people who transformed my way of approaching music and of thinking about music, both students and teachers alike. The story I like to tell is that Livingston Taylor, who was James Taylor's brother, started teaching there when I was in school there, and he taught a stage performance class, and I probably got more out of that class than any other class that I took at Berkeley. The lessons that I took from Livingston's classes were still with me to this day. One was about pulse and time.
Okay.
And always be just a good sense of time is more important than the notes that you play or the chords that you play or how many songs you know.
Okay.
As long as you're always internalizing that constant pulse, you can make a living playing music. There's
Totally.
nothing
And
more
so-
important than a good sense of time. Another thing he taught me was don't foist yourself upon a live audience. If you're playing in a restaurant, don't get pissed off if people don't seem to be listening. They might not be there for you, but you might be providing them a soundtrack for their first date, and maybe one of the songs that you sang, you don't even know that they're listening, but one of the songs you sang is something that's going to remind them of that first date night when they're 80 years old and they have kids and grandkids and great grandkids. Your function isn't always to be in the spotlight if you're doing that kind of a gig.
100%.
And the third lesson that I got from him was work gets work. It's just which I definitely don't live by anymore, thanks to Twitch. But for the first however many years of my career, as the phone rings, even if the gig doesn't pay as much as you want it to, or if it doesn't have as much prestige as you might want it to, take the gig, because it very likely will lead to more and better gigs. So work gets work.
I would agree with that 100%. What was the first one you said? Because I forgot listening to your second two. I was going to ask you about it. What was the first one?
The first one was about just internalizing time.
Oh, right. So what I was going to ask you about that is, did they obviously is a metronome like a textbook at that school? Like you just get one when you go there?
I don't know. It was one class that I took with him. I don't. It was long ago.
Did you have a metronome on you at all times? How did you get your sense of time? Jamming? Like, because jamming is pretty open,
My time got good when I had something called the Invisible Band, and I programmed tracks for myself. I played guitar, and then I had two singers up front, and everything else came from It wasn't recorded, but it was sequenced. It was in a sequencer.
Okay.
And so I was doing that for 7 or 8 years, and playing with a track for seven or 8 years.
Yeah, you got to be on a metronome.
Yeah, so your time gets good because you're just constantly having it batted into your head. Mm-hmm. You don't have a drummer who's kind of breathing in and out with you. Where if you speed up, the drummer is going to speed up, or if the drummer slows down, you're going to slow down. I became very sensitive to it too. So when I do play with a drummer whose time is not good, it annoys the crap out of me.
Right. So you don't enjoy having that swell or breathe? I mean, you can control that, obviously. Do you pull a band back and bring them forward with you and sort of things like that? Or do you prefer to just keep it on the grid, baby?
Oh, no, I enjoy having it be able to breathe, and having been someone who did weddings for a long time, you need someone who you can lock in with and who knows what your tempos are. I had a drummer with me for many years who we kind of we were attached at one brain cell, and he ended up having some alcohol issues, and I had to let him go because of the alcohol issues. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'll find somebody else. And I found this great drummer who I had been through high school with and at Berkeley with, and I was like, it's going to be great. The band's going to be great. And like within the first hour of the first gig, I was like, oh no, what have I done?
Drummer's got to go.
But the drummer I hired was great, world-class drummer, probably someone you might have even heard of, but we didn't have that connection.
Yeah,
and it's something that it's an unspoken connection. There's so much value to it that you can't even measure it. I did end up hiring him back about 4 months later, and then unfortunately he fell off the wagon again, and I had to let him go for good. But I regret that he couldn't get his shit under control, because it was such a great he was a great singer too, and it was a great musical relationship. It was a great personal relationship, and it's just
tough one.
Stay out of the bottle, kids.
Yeah, drugs and alcohol and musicians, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but okay. So you have a second channel. Is it Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox? I'm going to say it out loud for anyone who's listening on an audio podcast. It's Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox for his first channel. The second channel is the Jukesters. And can I ask, did you happen to meet Tommy at Berkeley or along your ventures through that, or how did that go? How did you meet Tommy, and how did you guys connect to do the Jukesters?
Tommy and I did not meet at Berkeley. Tommy and I met a few years after I was done with Berkeley. I was playing with this cover band, the one where I learned to play the guitar. The band's name was Jane Doe. We had a steady Wednesday night at a bar in Bayside, New York, called Randall McMurphy's, for the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest fans. And there's a guy, his name is Kenny also. He was playing at a bar up the block every Thursday. That bar was called Blossoms, and he sought me out because he had heard that this band Jane Doe had a keyboard player who knew a lot of Genesis and Yes and progressive rock kind of things. So he came and sought me out, and he said, I'm doing this thing on Thursday nights, and sometimes we need a sub, but you should come down anyway. But I was a young single man. I could duck out on a Thursday night, and I went and saw them, and sooner or later they needed a sub for their keyboard player, so I started filling in with them as their keyboard player. And then sometime within the next year, I don't remember exactly what the timeline was, but this guy came in, a guitar player, and knew a lot of the songs, and he kind of assimilated himself into the band, and his name was Tommy Williams. So Tommy became one of the guitar players in Wondrous Stories. Wondrous Stories ended up losing their keyboard player. His name is Chris Clark. Chris just became John Anderson's touring keyboard player. John Anderson, the singer from Yes.
Okay.
So now Chris Clark is playing with him. Chris has also played with Brand X. He played with Bernie Williams from the Yankees when Bernie Williams was playing guitar. He's had a lot of good high-profile gigs. So I was filling in for him. He ended up leaving the band after a falling out. When that happened, I was booked pretty solid with weddings and doing invisible band stuff. So I was the first choice to replace Chris, but I was not available at that time. So at some point, I became good enough to fill in with Wondrous Stories on the guitar as well as the keyboards. And the configuration of Wondrous Stories is keyboards, and then there are 3 guitar players, all of whom play bass at some point, depending on the song, and a drummer.
Okay.
And everybody sings. So I don't know. I don't remember exactly what my first guitar gig with Wondrous Stories was, but I ended up being able to fill in for 4 out of the 5 members of the band, which was kind of a nice position to be in. And then years later, I ended up being their sound man, because I had a full sound system, because I was doing weddings with it, and their sound man was retiring, and I slid into that role. So I became 4 of the 5 members and their sound man. So I was like a spiritual member of Wondrous Stories. So I was around Tommy and that band a lot.
Amazing. And so you guys have a very similar, so you guys must have connected, because I can just see the way that you guys banter back and forth, and that you have the same sort of humor and the same sort of like, I don't know, playfulness about it all. As we can see with the snowman, and you have all these sorts of things going on your screen. So do you guys connect on such a friendship level, and that's how it carried on, or was it musically as well, or just both?
Tommy and I, we've known each other for a long time. We never had any kind of a bestie kind of relationship where we spent a whole lot of time together. Mm-hmm. We would go to parties at their house, and I would see him at gigs. Tommy and I never really hung out. But when things started to lock down, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I asked Tommy, because I knew that he knew a lot of songs. If you think about the Venn diagram of songs that I know and songs that Tommy knows, there's plenty of overlap, but
Right.
There's also plenty of not overlap. So I thought that we could really run the gamut and be able to cover most of the requests that came in, and that was why I chose him. And I really
So on that channel, there's no list. You can pick any song at any time, and hope like one of you guys are going to try to pull that out of your hat like a rabbit.
That's correct.
Amazing,
Yeah.
dude. Like, this is what I'm saying. So humble, but like anyone in chat, that is unbelievable to try that. That is so, I would say, ballsy. I would never, and you guys are skilled enough to do it. You pull it off every night. Every night you guys stream. So the reason go ahead.
Well, let me just say one more thing. So one of the reasons I wanted Tommy as my partner, aside from just how good he is, was that he was in Wondrous Stories. I had created a Facebook page way back when for Wondrous Stories.
Okay.
And there were, by March of 2020, there were thousands and thousands of people on there. And I wouldn't have felt great about sharing these Facebook streams that we were about to do to the Wondrous Stories page. So one of the reasons I went with Tommy was because I wanted to be able to share to that page and have not everybody had seen Tommy. Not everybody had seen me.
Right.
So I didn't want them to say, "Oh, who's this guy?" You know, yeah. I wanted to be able, and also because Tommy tours with the band The Hooters, I was hoping we could bring in some of those people as well. I had a point here. I brought him in for a couple of those reasons, and
right.
Wondrous Stories is a band that always works without a net. Oh, I know what it was. So Wondrous Stories is a class. They've gone from the prog rock into the classic rock and some prog rock kind of realm, and because that was where a lot of our people were coming from, people weren't requesting the typical Sweet Home Alabama, Brown Eyed Girl kind of things. They were requesting deeper, better classic rock music. So on our channels, we don't get a lot of requests for the same old, which is nice. And I guess maybe people know that they can hear Brown Eyed Girl and Sweet Caroline wherever they go,
anywhere
and they can hit us with a deeper repertoire.
Of course.
And I guess our crowd, I guess, is a little more, we'll say, mature. Even though it's mature but still young at heart. So we were on Facebook for about a year. We saw the direction Facebook was going. It was really not doing well. I had been here on Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox for about 5 months or so, and I said, Tom, we really should consider moving over to Twitch, and he said, "Listen, I'll do whatever you want to do." Tom, here's the thing about Tommy, and I was going to say this before. Tommy and I have never, ever, and I'm not saying this hyperbolically in any way, shape, or form. Tommy has never pushed back on one single idea that I've ever had, as crazy as they've been. We've never butt heads on anything. He just goes along, goes with the flow. Sometimes he takes himself out of his comfort zone a little bit, but Tommy is just great about just going with it. That's another. Oh, so we came over to Twitch, and I already knew the infrastructure of Twitch. I'd already built relationships here, so we were able to grow pretty quickly. And I started taking advantage. I met Brad from Silly Rabbit, who helped me with some of the tech to get things on. Thank you for the follow, whoever that is. I can't see. To get things on the screen. Like my thing was like, I used to put those dancing cats on the screen, and I would do it manually. Or once in a while, I would click a button and have this dragon fly in and behind us and light Tommy on fire. And one day I was in Silly Rabbit's stream, and for channel points, however many it was, you could click a button, and all of a sudden these skeletons pop up on the screen and start dancing around. I was like, how do you do that? That's the coolest thing. I would love to have the audience be able to control when those things are on the screen. Take it out of my hands. You guys do it. I'm doing enough up here. So the channel grew from there. It started with a couple of dragons and some dancing cats, and at this point we have I've maxed out on channel point redemptions for stuff that people could make dance on the screen, whether it's an alligator or a sheep or birds or lizards, whatever. And then we had so many of them that I started making them into commands, just more simple commands that subscribers can type !fire in the chat, and a big fireball will just blow through the screen.
Right.
So just the jump to Twitch was such a massive upgrade from what we were doing on Facebook in terms of the tech, in terms of technology. I was afraid that people wouldn't follow us over, but our main supporters followed us over. We were able to build from there, and I'm super proud of the fact that we were able to get partnered on Twitch before we even had 2,000 followers.
Well done, man.
We had the numbers. We had the numbers to get a purple check before we even hit 2K.
Amazing.
And that was that's one of the things I'm most proud of.
That's a testament to a number of things, man. A, your skill. B, your smarts in like your approach, like making sure it's interactive like that, like maxing out your channel points and then commanding it for subscribers, and just very fun stuff. The reason I asked about that, because I wanted to make sure that we talked about both of your channels. On Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox, how would you say that differs a little bit from the Jukesters channel?
In terms of the graphic kind of stuff and
just overall content or flow or whatever you do there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, speaking first about the graphic content and the interactive components, there are some things. People on Prog Rock, there's a butterfly command where people can make butterflies fly out from behind me. I wanted it to be a little more serious because the music is a little more serious.
Okay.
So I didn't want to go overly over the top with the graphics on Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox, just because I wanted the focus to be more on the music. Because the music that and I'll give you a little more about the background of the channel, but what started happening was people from the Jukesters would come onto Prog Rock and they'd start trying the sub commands. So it's just like, all right, well, people see me and they have a certain expectation that there's going to be graphics. Right. If you type !music, you're going to see music notes go flying across the screen, and there was some confusion as to which commands worked where. So I started replicating some of them. Like I don't want a dancing alligator on Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox. I just don't.
Okay.
It's
That's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking the vibe difference in one is a little more serious, one is a little bit more crazy, and
right. So the Jukesters is supposed to be a party.
Okay.
And that's what people tend to say if they rate in for the first time, if they're seeing us. Oh my God, look at the party in here.
Yeah.
And that's that. It was modeled after a dueling piano show where it's just high energy, up tempo, bump, bump, boom, 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 song to song to song. We're having fun. We're doing toasts. We're telling jokes. And that was always the show, even on Facebook. And then we were able to add this third dimension and bring the audience in even more with the graphical interactions.
Right. Well, the reason I ask about Kenny's Prog Rock again is because I really would like to put you on the spot and ask if you can you see the chat? Like, I think one of the coolest things I've ever seen is just doing, your hype train thing. And I didn't know if you'd be down for, you could say no and no one will be upset. But I don't know if you'd be down for doing a little what you would do in your hype trains just for us. If I gave you full screen, just, play through the songs that are running through chat. And everyone who's listening to this, you're obviously not going to see them popping in chat, but you're going to hear Kenny changing very rapidly. And if you want to watch that chat go up, you can watch the VOD. Is that okay with you, Kenny, or what do you think?
Yeah, you know what? Can we do it at the end?
I'd
prefer to...
100.
Let's do that. Let's do that like for the last 5 minutes or something like that. That way we're
100%.
I don't have to come back down to this after doing, because that's a very heightened sense of a.
Okay,
sense of
right.
awareness.
That makes sense. Okay, I didn't think of it that way. Sorry about that. 100% we'll do that.
So as far as the origins of Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox, you didn't ask, but it seemed like it was going there.
Yeah, definitely.
So when I was on, they're starting a hype train. When I was on Facebook, I was streaming on a page called Quarantine Keys. Oh, here's the hype train, Kev.
Are you gonna do it? They want you to do it. I know it's so hypey. I know. We don't have to go crazy after this. I'll ask you a couple fun questions after this, and we'll, that'll be it. Does that sound good for you? We're at 43 minutes already, or a little less.
All right, let's do it.
Yes, we got him. Okay, let me give you full screen, bro. Let me give you full screen. Okay. And I'm going to, here we go. We're going to give Kenny full screen, and y'all in chat right now. Thank you for doing the hype train. I don't have to go through the hype train, but Kenny, I'm going to mute myself, and it's all you. This is wild, everyone. Watch this.
I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other mothers can't deny. I like to dream. Come up and haunt me. Tell me I'm sorry. You don't know how lucky you are. My blood runs cold. My memory has just been so groovy, jazzy, funky, bounce, dance as we dip in the melodic sea. Really keep throwing at trips to MC. In the shuffling madness, Jeremy spoken plays today. Alive and kicking, stay until you love me, sweet Caroline. Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living. Blinded by the light, revved up like a deuce, another roller in the night. You and me, we come from different worlds. You like to laugh at me when I look at other girls. I'll stop the world and melt with you. You see the difference, and if something happens and I'm head over heels, I never sell a smile. Rosalita, jump a little ladder. Senorita, come set by my fire. Well, I'm on the down easter Alexa. Hold the line. Love isn't always on time. Changes and face strange changes. I want your picture. Your name in lights above it. Time stands still. I'm not looking back, but I want to look around me. Just the
a small town girl. Oh my God, why are you doing this to me?
Pressure pushing down on me, pressing down on you, no man's fault. Kaylee, is it too late to say I'm sorry? And Kaylee, could we get it together again? There was no forever, there could be forever. We'll be my umbrella, Why are we here? Because we're here on the bones. And the sailor said, Randy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be.
How was Lazarus go? I can't remember.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. Come on, Eileen. Oh, I swear, but it.
Oh, Raymond, you're not leaving. Stop trying.
Walked into the party like you were walking onto a yacht.
All right. All right. Evil wizard.
Amazing.
My goodness.
That is ridiculous. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Dude, the deliberate one sitting here beside me, and I kept looking over at her, and she's looking at me going like, every time you switch a song, that is so incredible. I mean, as a musician, I'm not a professional musician. I'm a performer, but as a performer, like I love that, dude. It is so, that does take a lot. I could tell how you're on a higher level. When as soon as you mentioned that, I'm like, oh yeah, that would be totally what it is. But we're chill now, man. That's all good. That was so amazing. So everyone who heard that, there was songs flying in the chat, and as quick as they could go in,
Kimmy.
Kenny was doing his. Thank you, Kimmy. Thank you so very much. As quick as they could put them in the chat, Kenny was modulating to them and stop, start, and like some of them flowed so cool. Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox, that happens for a lot. And then the other channel is the Jukester. So I want to make sure everybody checks out the 2 Twitch channels, and there's a link tree available as well for any other links that Kenny has for you guys. But let's have a little bit of fun just for the last little bit, man. Take it down a notch. I'd like to ask if there was 2 artists that you could go on tour with, dead or alive, who would they be?
McCartney and Billy Joel.
That was so fast. He knows. What's up? McCartney with Wings or just him solo?
Solo. The current tour where he mixes up Beatles and Wing stuff.
Oh, okay.
I love his music.
Amazing. Yeah, he's a genius, I would believe. What do you guys presume you would like to have in the green room on the rider?
Oh, gosh. Are we talking about food or are we talking about anything?
You can name it, my friend.
All right. Well, my look at Kimmy's going crazy over here.
Thank you so very much.
I'm sorry. Did I say going? There may have been too many words in that sentence.
Gone?
Sorry, I'm not answering your question here, but as far as Billy Joel goes, I'm 1 degree of separation. I had one of Billy Joel's bass player, Andy Cichon, was in my wedding band when Billy was not active for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
And the singer in that band was Chuck Berge, Billy's drummer for 20 years or whatever, was his wife, Amy. So I'm like
closely.
Like I'm this close to being in Billy's band. Is
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
of course.
Anyway, green room. So my pre-gig regimen is generally I steam my vocal cords. I have a little bit of an energy shot, and this cup that I have here has this special honey that's a lot of the Broadway singers swear by it.
Okay.
It's a tablespoon of this honey in boiling hot water.
Is it specific to that area, or can we get that honey anywhere?
You can get it on Amazon.
Okay, cool. Thank you guys so much in the chat. If you didn't notice, Kenny has completed his work for the day, and his union break has started. Thank you guys so much.
Right,
Yeah, man.
Sniper.
Absolutely awesome. So you can get it on Amazon. Can you tell us the name of that one? Because I'd be interested in having a look at it, actually.
I'm gonna put it in the chat. It's like a Chinese ninjiam, I think is what it's called.
Tremendous. I'll pick that out. Thank you so much, man.
It's not the organic orange stuff.
Okay, I will check it out.
But if you look up ninjiam on Amazon, you should find the syrup. It's supposed to be like a cough kind of a syrup, but
Right, like a throat coat sort of thing.
yeah, it was a it was. Thank you, Kimmy. Kimmy just gifted me a sub.
Thank you, Kimmy.
It was recommended to me by a viewer called Be Over Smart.
Okay.
She said, "Oh yeah, I have a friend who's on Broadway, and they all swear by this. Try it out."
Great.
Okay.
Is
I've been
there
using it ever since.
is there a particular venue you'd like to play with these guys? Like, is there some sort of dirty, grungy venue you played in New York back in the day around Berkeley that you want to go back to, and just, or is there something like, is it classic, Madison Square Garden?
I did a bar mitzvah at Madison Square Garden way back when.
Oh my goodness.
And I would love to get back there.
Okay.
That was always my my dream before my son was born, was just to
Play Madison
be a
Square
rock star and tour the world and do that whole thing. And once you start having kids, it's a little harder to maintain that dream. You start having a family, and then you have to, other people who are relying on you and
course.
being responsible, and so I had to grow up a little bit at that point and leave that dream behind.
Totally. It's it's tough with no kids to do it. So I couldn't imagine trying to support a family, and like you still do piano, dueling pianos, and now you're mostly on Twitch, but you do a couple gigs here and there, Kenny, or?
Yeah. So going back a little bit, the live streaming opportunity that the pandemic created made me realize that weddings were just so unfulfilling, and just there's
Right.
so much stress, and it was just such a rat race, and I was working hard to make somebody else a lot of money.
Right.
Not that I was making a terrible living, but I was making other people a lot of money.
Yeah.
Having to deal with getting into New York City and finding a spot, and dealing with the stinky loading dock, and loading all the stuff onto the cart and dragging it through the kitchen and taking it up the elevator and getting it set up, and then you have to get through the caterer, and you have to get
I
to
still
the
do
bride,
that.
and you have to get to the bride's mother. It was just so much stress, and you have to learn all the songs every week, and sometimes you have 3 jobs in 1 week, and it's just like you're just trying to keep them straight. I was the band leader, so there was a lot. I wasn't a guy who could just walk in as the bass player or the guitar player and just play the show and then walk
You're
out
doing
with
the
check.
sound, and
I was
you're
in
booked-
charge.
yeah.
Everything came down on me. If one of my players is grazing like a cow at the cocktail hour, they're not going to get yelled at. I'm going to get yelled at. So
Right.
it was just and being treated like you're just the staff,
Yeah.
this isn't over, it doesn't come off too badly, but
Go ahead.
there's this new breed of millennial called party planner, and all it really requires is a clipboard. That's all. So you start having all these little girls running around with clipboards, saying that they're the planners, and
Or
they're telling
event
me
plan-
what to,
okay.
and they're telling me what to do, and it's just like I don't know what I'm doing already, and then I have to take these orders. It was just such a ugh.
Yeah.
So when I started live streaming, I found this community of people who were just there for me and really appreciated what I was doing, and appreciated I felt loved, and I felt validated in a way that I never felt doing weddings,
Right.
and being a hired gun in the local bands. And I called I still had a few weddings on the books for 2020, because we didn't know how long it was going to last, for 20 and 21. And I called up the office and said, you know what? I think I'm done.
Good for you, man.
I'll finish out what I have with you. I worked with them for a very long time. They mostly did right by me, and I didn't want to. I never want to screw anybody.
Right.
So
But you have to do what's best for you. It's a tough call, but you have to do what's best for you.
Yeah, I said I'll finish up what I have left in the book, and don't book me anymore after that. And so meanwhile, in the year leading up to the pandemic, I had discovered dueling piano shows. I was training as a dueler, and a lot of the success I've had as a streamer, I believe, came from that year of dueling. I learned how to be an entertainer and not just a player and a singer. I've always been a player and a singer, but I wanted to be that entertainer, and that was what I needed to be engaging, sitting in my living room in front of a camera,
Right.
rather than just with a live audience who's feeding me. So I started the shows with Tommy. I very quickly got picked up by a group called Quarantine Keys, and I was streaming twice a week by myself on Quarantine Keys, and I had a really good thing going. It was we would do a theme stream once a week, and then we had 70s night on Sundays, and we were doing great. And then we had this nice following. People were so generous, sending me money. They're so grateful that I was there doing this, because people were afraid to leave their house. In New York, I don't know how it was where you were, but in New York, we had it really bad first, and people were afraid to touch a doorknob.
Yeah.
Everybody, wherever you went, whatever you touched, whoever you saw, you were paranoid that they were going to give you COVID, which they didn't know what to do, and so many of the people were dying from it. So people to this day come up to me and say, "Oh man, the shows you used to do, and you were like a ray of light in a dark time," and it's going back to the validation and the love I was feeling. But,
Right.
I digress. I was doing really well, and there was one night where I did an after-hours show where there was another performer coming on Quarantine Keys. So I said, "Hey, come on over to my personal page, and I'll finish up the requests. We'll do a little more." And requests started coming in for Pink Floyd and Rush and things like that. I was like, "Oh, this is fun." So I had the idea to do a prog rock theme night on Quarantine Keys. I wasn't sure if I should do it because it's such an esoteric kind of music, and it's like, am I going to alienate 70 or 80% of the audience? But the woman Jamie, who was running it, she said, "Go for it. What worst comes to worst, it flops, and then you come back next week with something else."
Yeah.
I said, and I did it, and that one night was like, it was super successful.
Right.
Like I
It hit.
Like I made more money that night, and I enjoyed myself. So that was an idea that I put in my pocket. I did it another time after that, and a friend of mine locally, another local piano player, he said, "That was amazing, dude. I don't know anybody else who can pull those songs out of their bottom is butt
Yeah.
and bottom at the
Yeah,
same time.
I got it.
Who can pull songs out like that? Like nobody has that much repertoire of that kind of music." And it was something that I loved doing, and I wanted to figure out a way to keep doing. And I was watching our friend Laura Wiley Piano, who had moved over to Twitch a few months before and was really enjoying it. And she was giving a little Twitch seminar, and she said, "What works really well on Twitch is if you have a really niche thing that only you can do, and people who love it will find you."
Yeah.
And the light bulb came on over my head, and I was just like, "Oh, maybe that's the home for the prog rock piano bar."
Amazing, man.
And
You reap what you sow. Yeah. You put that out there, and people who like it will come.
yeah, and it was originally going to be only an afternoon thing. I was already streaming 3 nights a week on Facebook. How many nights a week can I stream?
Mm-hmm.
I have a wife, and we like to spend time together. We don't have that relationship where husbands
each
and wives
other.
have where they like to get away from each other. We like to spend time together and do stuff. And I was like, how am I if I add a 4th and a 5th night? How am I going to maintain that? And then I realized that there's a lot of there's a Prog community in the EU. So Senorita Wendita works all day. She gets home around 6. I was like, well, what if I went on at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, stream for a couple of hours before she gets home? It's kind of a dead time of the day for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was doing afternoon streams to start. And people started watching. I was like, wow, people are actually watching this shit. So I kind of found it, I talked at Berkeley about finding my tribe of people. And, I found another tribe on Facebook with the Kenny and Tommy shows. And then I found a third tribe of people here on Twitch who liked this progressive rock music. And even if they didn't know it, they liked the sound of it. They liked what they were hearing. I started building a community here, and it was just again just with love and validation and just such a wonderful embracing place. And I started making connections, and so when I started seeing the numbers taking a dump on Facebook, and I said to Tommy, let's do this on Twitch, and he said, okay, I'll go along with whatever you think is best. And within about a week, one of the things on Twitch that you don't get from Facebook is discoverability.
Yeah.
We needed to get in front of new eyeballs, and Twitch is great for that, as you know, with raids and being the single greatest tool for getting new people. So within probably a week or 2 weeks of making the decision, setting a date. Okay, this is going to be the first date we start on Twitch. This is where we're going to do it. I got a rate. My viewer average is probably 30 or 35 at that time on Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox, and all of a sudden, I'd been streaming. I don't know how long I was. I was just talking to I was talking to someone in the community about something unrelated, and all of a sudden, a raid comes in of 9,000 people from the stock guy.
Oh, whoa.
This was when the day trading was really going crazy on Twitch. So he raided in with 9,000 people. And it was an absolute game changer on my channel. And I just kept playing, and I held them. I held them for hours. They had the best time with me, and my presence on Twitch like doubled after that. So yeah. But it was kind of the universe telling me that we had made the decision. We set it in stone that we were going to come over here with Kenny and Tommy's live jukebox, which is what we called it on Facebook. That we had made the right decision, that this is the place you're going to get more eyeballs. And if there was ever a little demonstration of the universe,
there it was.
To tell you, it's a 9,000 person raid from the stock guy.
100%. And you know what? Great market to, like, the people who are probably watching that stream are, it could have been a 9,000 person hot tub girl, but you wouldn't have got the same response. I feel like
never know.
Well, you do never know, I guess. But I'm going to guess not. That's such a good market for you, man. The people who are probably watching that stream are right into the music that you make. And you probably, like I said, you're so captivating. And the way you can rip through songs and the way that you hold people's attention. Like I said, you're captivating. So, yeah, as soon as someone pops in the channel and they see you doing that hype train thing, it's like, what the hell, man? Again, I keep saying it. It was unbelievable to me. And, yeah, I think you're one of the most talented guys I've ever seen, and especially on Twitch, and humble, and you're a wonderful human, and I want to say thank you, man. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for committing your life to music and sharing that with us.
Music committed itself to me. I didn't commit myself to it.
Good answer. Good.
Thank you for whoever that follower was. So just a quick little shout out. So Top Hit 007 in the chat. Today, I didn't realize it when I booked this with you. Today is actually my 2-year affiliate anniversary on this channel. Oh,
amazing, dude. Well, congratulations.
So Top Hit 007 found me in those first couple of weeks before I was an affiliate, and he's been at almost every stream ever since. And now he is in the UK, so he's 5 hours ahead of us. So when I started streaming at night, he started having to stay up all night.
Yeah, shout out to all the moderators out there and all the VIPs and big supporters of all these streamers, especially music streamers. For me, I know that we all kind of converged here during the plague, and I'm really grateful for everybody out there, and thanks for taking care of Kenny and feeding the family over there, everybody, because he does do something pretty important. I always like to say during these podcasts that if we the value of music is found when it is silent. And when you're in the barbershop and there's no music, and when your wedding can't have music, and when you're going to the club and there's no music on, like, the music is integral. At the baseball game, between the pitches, all of that stuff. If it was silent for 1 week, we would all understand how valuable it is. So thank you for showing some value and making this guy feel like he's worth something, because in my eyes, he's one of the most talented humans. So thank you, Kenny, man. I hope I made you blush at least one time today. You're amazing, dude. And yeah, just keep playing, and the ladder is never ending for you, my friend.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me on, Kev, and I wish you all the luck with your new podcast career. Thank you to the current mods and the mods past, and all the super generous supporters. You guys know who you are. I don't have to name you by name. You know who you are. But people who've just been sticking with me for 2 years and more, it's really been an amazing ride. And to go back to your question, mostly Twitch, a career on Twitch. Has enabled me to be able to be more selective about
Your gigs.
the outside shows that I take, and now when I work outside the house, it's worthwhile. I never feel like it's something that I have to do. It's something that I want to do. So,
Absolutely.
So thank you to Twitch for that.
And I feel the same way with my gigs too, man. So I'm glad you're in that place now. It seemed to come out the other side in a better place. So congratulations to that. And I wish you all the success in the world, my brother.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll be into your streams sooner than later.
Yes. I'm going to be off next week. The community, a lot of people from the community that we built
Yep.
are actually going to meet up on a beach in the Dominican Republic. So,
No
but
doubt.
you do have a chance to this week. You have a chance to catch me on both channels. Both are at 8:00 Eastern. Kenny's Prog Rock on Wednesday and the Jukesters on Thursday before we take a little break. So I hope to see some of the bunker people.
Of course. And
in the next
also,
streams.
I will mention that Kenny's link tree is going to be in the podcast description, the YouTube subscription. And in that link tree, I suspect he has his Twitch channels, which there is a schedule there for them. So if you see this or hear this elsewhere from Twitch, go check out the link tree, check out his channels, and look at the schedule, and check out one of those streams. They're absolutely amazing. So we'll make sure we push some people your way. All right, Kenny?
Thanks, Kev.
Thanks, man. Have a great night, brother.
You too.
Cheers.
Cheers to you.
Holy Mackina, friends, lovers, and all the others. That was beautiful. What a legend. I'm so glad that he agreed. Thank you, chat, so much for throwing a hype train in there, because I think that really pushed him over the edge. And I really wanted to show Kenny's skills and the way that he can take song after song and to understand what he's doing in his head, everyone, is unbelievable. And yeah, so to Kenny's community, thank you for doing that. If you're watching this anywhere else but on Twitch, there was a hype train actually going while Kenny was playing, and a lot of people were committing to the channel and throwing bits and things at me. So thank you guys very, very much. This is more to get to know the streamers than that, but thank you for being here. And yeah, check out the Jukesters. Check out Kenny's Prog Rock Jukebox. And Kenny has a link tree that will be below if you're watching this on YouTube, and it will be below if you're listening to this on the podcast. So also, all of my links are below. If you're watching this elsewhere, you can get merch, live from the bunker merch. I have multiple shows going on. We have performers from Toronto and surrounding all the time here. We started to listen to old independent Toronto band CDs from like the mid-2000s on our album show. We'll be doing that on Wednesday. So check out all the shows. Show us a little bit of love. All of my socials are in the chat there, so you can follow along everywhere. Very grateful for everybody. Today we're going to go raid another great music streamer. So until next time, y'all got to keep it between the mustard and the mayonnaise.